Everybody, it's 1:06. We're going to get started. If you're on the phone, we'll do the Wremac members first that are on the phone. Please identify yourself. Other people on the phone, non-Wremac members?
Ron here, I'm pre-revenue state right.
Anybody else?
Okay, first three bets from the neck.
All right, anyone else? All right, the minutes from the previous meeting were circulated. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Sure. Thank you, Dr. Lynch. Is there a second? Thank you. Any comments, suggestions, alterations on the minutes? Okay, all in favor? All right, thanks. Any opposed? Thank you. CMAC SEMSCO report, Dr. Walters.
Sure. So I think the last CMAC meeting was a week or two after our last Wremac meeting, so that was on September 25th. There were just a couple of things, some of the protocols across the state that were approved. Just one item of interest is that they did approve transmucosal fentanyl for select agencies approved by Wremac and some of the state protocols. So that's just something that I don't think we've seen in state protocols previously. The big item is that there were supposed to be some statewide BLS protocols for discussion and vote at that meeting, and for certain reasons that did not happen, as it was, I guess, asked of the department of the review not to bring those up for discussion or vote, and I guess we'll leave it at that for right now. So those should come up for votes and further discussion at the next meeting, which is in January. They are very similar to the collaborative protocols, and that's already at the BLS level, maybe a few updates and things, but I don't think there's anything too substantial of a change there that was proposed. There was some discussion at the Training and Education Committee meeting about the critical care bridge, and I was not at that meeting, so if anyone was there and wants to share some thoughts on that. My understanding is that the beginning part of this bridge, the first few modules, are going to be complete, and that they're going to start registration in January.
Yes.
That's what they said, but I do not think that's it. I thought you said they haven't been commitments from the correspondence yet.
Yeah, so it sounds like there are a lot of things still up in the air with that bridge. It also is going to be a cost of $1,500. That's correct. And I think that there's some question about the number of students who can be enrolled in up to the individual program agency or correspondence.
Of course, yes.
So there's a lot of concerns on the length it's still going to take 12 months, 13 months to complete. So there's a lot of, I think, concerns, questions about accessibility, how it's going to run, when the other modules are going to be complete, what the start date is, things like that are still very up in the air, and we don't have concrete answers to that yet. Anyone else who's got that meeting that have other input on those?
I think that the buy-in from the program agencies in the area is really going to be, or not the program agencies, the course sponsors. If the course sponsors aren't willing to test out the students at the end of each module, then the bridge can't continue, because you can't continue on to the third or fourth module until the testing is completed with the first and second. After the Shrems meeting, there was discussion that that's going to be a cost to the agencies running these skill sites, so I'm not sure how much participation they're going to get across the state.
So for example, All Star does not get the staff, and you would have to get the staff test after each module. So that would be an additional expense. They're going to pay the corresponding $200, and that would be to administer the FinSAP test and then teach them 5, and I don't know if you guys right now, is it 5 or 6? 5 or 6 skills, and they're only going to teach to the gap between CC and paramedic. So no one can tell us what that gap is. I'll be honest, we're very concerned that it would be very difficult.
I think it's also interesting that they're just teaching the gap knowledge supposedly, but yet it's still taking 13 months and you can't work ahead and you can't go through any faster. So I guess we'll see what is discussed in January and where that goes, but I think there are some logistical.
I did put an email into Director Greenberg after we had a meeting yesterday, just to see if there was any update, because they're waiting on some leaving also. Now, Gene Taylor's in his place, and he was kind of leading that charge, so we're not sure how fast it's going to lead. Now that he's gone.
All right, I guess.
Hey, Dr. Walters?
Yes, Phil.
So, just so you know, I mean, Gene Taylor did ask me, as a core sponsor, would we entertain doing the bridge? And I said we certainly would entertain, trying to help out for the next year or two, but, we have not officially been contacted with, these are the skills, this is the module. She gave me some rough information on what pricing would be, and then she just called me back and asked about the FISDAP testing. So I don't think if the core sponsors want to say no, I don't think they can say yes until they have enough information to determine, what their costs are going to be and can they cover those costs.
No, understood. I think the fact that we're, 6 weeks from January now, we still don't have all the information, it tells me that it probably isn't going to, probably not starting registration and to get this thing going on January 1st, but that's just my opinion.
They did say they were going to be very selective in the first class as well, for student-wise. But, so I don't know how many would even be eligible to take the class if everything aligned correctly.
The news from the last news was they were limiting the number of registrants to those that would be able to attend their core sponsors. So the first step was getting core sponsor commitment for X number of bridge students, and that they would build that up.
So is there a limit as to the number of students that they can accommodate at a time on the system?
Depends on the core sponsor.
The constraint is the core sponsors on the bridge. It's not constrained in terms of the distance learning component. It's what core sponsors can accommodate.
Okay. Any other thoughts? The other big item of discussion at the CMAC was about the blood regulations, and I'm not sure why everybody's looking at the left. I know you've seen the video, but so as we know, so 2 years ago they changed the blood regulations for ambulance transfusion services. Since that time, because it was so cumbersome and ridiculously complicated, and probably way more than it needs to be, only about 10 agencies in the state are actually approved to transport blood right now. I think the people giving the presentation also spoke about the ability of nurses to give transfusions, which we do a lot of in helicopter services and some of our critical care services and that. They basically knowingly said that most agencies cannot comply with this right now, that also without being able to comply or officially continue a blood transfusion out of a hospital from a critical patient, they understood that that would put the patients at risk at this point, and openly said that they expected people to be violating this policy and this law in the meantime, which to me says if we have a law and we know we're going to violate it, then probably it should be changed or fixed. But so the discussion and the motion from the CMAC and the STEM school was to implore the commissioner that there should be a moratorium on the current regulations until the appropriate stakeholders can be put together to revise and change these regulations. I haven't heard any more on that. I think that this is going to be discussed more and more in the future, but I think the good thing that came out of it is the overwhelming recognition that what we have currently isn't working and that it will need to be changed.
Right, it did get brought up at our program agency meeting. Director Greenberg said that he wanted it clear that when moratorium did not get put on, that it was a recommendation, and we were to be very clear on that. We also let him know that the updated
Walters from one hospital right now, and I'm about to send a bolus of paperwork for a bunch of other hospitals. And if the paperwork changes, I'm gonna blame you for this, Walters.
Not me.
All right.
Dr. Clemson?
Yes, yes, sir, Mr. Treepass.
Hey, it's Don. Yes, hey, I have, the new paperwork, I'm sure. There is definitely new paperwork, that is dated September of 18, and, there's, the new training and so forth that Wadsworth put together. I'm more than willing to share, based on how I got it with anyone, if, you just want to email me and I'll more than happy to share that with you. They're supposed to be putting up the link again, last I heard, as of last week.
All right,
But it has not happened.
thank you. Sorry I asked.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions for Dr. Walters? Okay, Chairman's report. Two things. One is we put together a thing for Benadryl. So Benadryl is currently in the formulary and is currently stocked as a parenteral medication. However, it is now the latest in the long run of drugs that you just can't get a hold of, unfortunately. We did some math, and I came up with a proposed weight-based scheme. I think this is better. If you read the side of like a PO Benadryl container, it's like age-based, and it's very broad and not really specific. And it's designed for non-medical people. I think as medical people, we can do a little better. It's an estimate, it's just a slightly different way of estimating. Although I think ours is probably more likely to get the patient closer to the dose that they need. I'm recommending that everybody use pediatric tabs, because that way an adult can take 4 chewable tabs without much difficulty. That way no one's got forced pills, no one's splitting pills or doing anything else. Is there any question about the parenteral Benadryl memo?
I guess my only
Yeah.
question is that, let's say an agency were to stock regular adult-sized Benadryl also, would we consider that a generic equivalent?
If they really, I don't recommend they do that, but yeah, fine, I think that's reasonable. I think the way I thought about it is the most streamlined approach is easiest.
One thing for everybody.
You have one thing on your rig, you know, when we have multiple kinds and concentrations of the same medication of any kind, it's fraught with potential drug errors. It's also more stuff you gotta carry. But if you operationally want to do it differently at an agency level, I can't be crazy about that. Just want to be my recommendation. Any questions about that? There was a second.
We
Yeah.
need a motion and a vote.
Sure, why not? Why don't we, that would be helpful.
I'll make the motion to approve this.
Second. All in favor, any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The other thing, and I don't need to vote on it, but just to clarify, we had a question through one of the program agencies regarding BLS cards from the AHA have the words recommended renewal date on it or something to that effect. That is operationally an expiration date for that card, both in our estimation and also if you read the course manual for the AHA, they essentially use it as an expiration date also. It says recommend renewal because lots of people use BLS cards for lots of different things in the universe, but for healthcare providers, we expect them to renew them on a two-year period, and operationally, that is an expiration date, not a recommended thing. If you don't have your CPR card, you're not online in the region. We made that clear to the one agency that inquired, and we kind of put it on the record should the issue come up again. The state also opined on that, I think, the individual agency. Any questions for me? Beth Moses, Trauma Advisory Committee. Okay, Nurse Advisory Committee, Bruce Treepass, I got your email this morning. Do you want to speak to the highlights?
Yeah, I can just go over real quick.
Please.
We met last week sometime. A couple of the topics that came up was the ChemPack. I know one of the smallest that kind of reached out and had some questions with the ChemPack, so we brought it to the broader group. It looks like the hub sites are okay with the process and drill on it well. I just got to clarify that some of the smaller spoke sites have a good resource manual. I'm guessing so, but I don't have confirmation on that yet. That also brought us into a broader conversation of emergency preparedness and general PPE. Kind of got on the topic of the new recent Ebola update updates that were coming out. Everybody was, on the hospital side, was drilling, making sure they were repaired. We know some of the larger agencies were kind of dusting off the policy book and making sure their inventory was good. But the question came about was, were all the smaller volunteer agencies also kind of getting the same memo and notifications? I wasn't sure if the program agencies was also sending that out. That was kind of a question to bring back to the group. I don't know if anybody has any input on that right off the bat. The next thing was the MID reporting. It seems that it is being used, but sporadically and not consistently, probably across the board. So one of the recommendations was, if it's supported by the Wremac, would be to kind of blast it back out. I can go through the NAC to all the ED managers, so it hits the EDs, and then for all the program agencies, they kind of send out some information. If that is blessed, that we would gather that through with Beth and send out another standardized message. So across, so the hospital kind of has a little refresher on it, all the pre-hospital agencies. So we want to kind of keep reinforcing that standard reporting process. We reviewed the policy updates from the Wremac this year. No issues of concern, especially with the 12-lead BLS 12-lead EKGs. Nobody had any issues, problems, concerns with that coming forward. We've left our discussions of the blood transfusions off the minutes, and next meeting we scheduled sometime in January.
Thank you, Bruce. Any questions for Bruce?
Bruce, what was your question about, related to Ebola or what being sent out?
Well, just the general nurse, some of the information that we receive on the hospital side. I know some of the larger EMS agencies were getting information that, they were starting to see it pop up again. Was there anything that was going out to the regular volunteer agencies that, hey, this is about, we should probably make sure that you have this PPE ready and available?
Program agencies?
Well, there was a memo that went out in 2015 that says you're supposed to do it every 12 months. Regarding the docking and practicing. After they.
Every month.
Every month,
And then we changed it.
and I could be wrong, it's just
No, and
15 sticks in my head.
then the Bureau was also asking when they were doing full services for a little while, they just wanted to see, as they were doing them, who was doing what, if they had, evidence of any training and whatnot. I don't know if they still include that as part of the full service inspection.
Don has them.
Don has been? Okay. Well, he's the new guy, we should expect him to.
Right, Don?
I heard my name, but it's very distant. I'm sorry, Don. What was that about Ebola?
About donning and doffing, practicing every 12 months.
Yeah, so the commissioner's order from 2014 still stands. There was an adjustment to that in 2015 that requires now yearly versus monthly donning and doffing training and documentation of such, with the exception of those agencies that are directly linked to, the transport and their facility agencies. So those are, identified as moving the patient from point A to point B. But for the general population of the EMS system, they should be donning and doffing on a yearly basis at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
In the meantime, I got any other questions for Nurse Advisory Committee? I got the Trauma Advisory Committee report in the meantime. The RTAC introduced a new trauma manager at Children's, had a discussion about pre-arrival issues, reminded transferring hospitals not to do CT scans on trauma patients if it's going to create a large delay in transport. Reviewed stop the bleeding numbers. They have had over 200 courses and over 3,200 people trained in the region so far. Blood transfusion was a topic of conversation there also, as it seems to be everywhere these days. And they also talked about some educational opportunities, and we'll have the full report in the minutes. Program agency reports. Lake Plains.
Good afternoon. I've listed my classes that we've had recently and the ones that are coming up. We just did a CLI class about 2 weeks ago. 17 people went through. We also, last weekend, did an instructor update where we had about 29 participants in that. And we have another CLI class coming up in at the end of the month in Genesee County, and it's over capacity right now. So as far as requests for stuff, Alcott Fire Department's looking to move from CC to paramedic. My notice of intents, I got Tri-Town Ambulance requesting syringe epi, and I got 2 pads. One at Lockheed Martin in Niagara Falls, and the other New Direction in Youth Family Services in Lockport. Stafford's requesting blood glucose monitoring, Oakfield Fire's requesting blood glucose monitoring, and Clarendon is changing medical director from Dr. Wolf to Dr. Schuckler. And I also want to mention that last meeting, Holly did the same change to Dr. Schuckler, and they did it on a temporary basis. Essentially, they want to move to permanent. They were just waiting to get the contract signed. That was the thing there. If anybody's interested in electronic, please get with your respective program agencies so we can get you going. The Elite site has been up and running. We're now transitioning a lot of the outside vendors into the Western Elite site now. We're currently working with EMS Charts and Zoll. We're working with STEMS on the Pediatric Emergency Care Coordinator program. We'll have more to follow on that in the future. And Lake Plains has recently started working forward to transitioning to offer 100% online CME for everyone within the region at a discounted rate. So if you're in the Niagara, Orleans, or Genesee County and you're interested, please get in touch with us sooner than later. So I've listed the next following meetings coming up. And I do want to mention I was looking at the Wremac meetings that just came out, the January meetings on the state meeting day.
We'll have to move it. All right.
Just so you know.
Alcott Fire, how many paramedics do they have? And are they
1.
prepared for the narcotics thing?
1. They have Dr. Baker.
And they're all set for narcotics?
Yes. They do have, they have their narcotics now. Because,
CCs there already.
yes.
Okay. Any questions for Rob? STEMS, Alicia?
My report was completed as well. We had a certified instructor update course back in October. We had about 30 people who came to that as well as attended. We held Approaching Alzheimer's Monday the 22nd, which is just a CME that we offered with distance learning at multiple sites. 2 days ago Monday we held an Understanding Brain Injury one that was with the Brain Injury Association of New York State, also distance learning. We just were notified that we were awarded our second round of funding through the USDA Rural Utility Service Distance Learning Grant. So that will establish 2 new sites in our region, as well as update some equipment at Jones Memorial Hospital. So that will take us to multiple sites, and we'll be waiting for the next round to come out so we can keep applying for that and expand our network. We also were notified that the grant application that Dominic worked on with the Bureau was awarded as a Pediatric Emergency Care Coordinator grant. It's a federal grant through HRSA, and that will work to establish PACs across the agencies across New York State. So we're excited for that. We've been doing a lot of staff with lead trainings, and American trainings, and upcoming we have a Talk Saves Lives presentation, stroke presentation, ITLS, Safe Talk, panels, and our conference in the distant future.
Just to add to,
Yeah.
we had a provider that committed suicide in Allegheny County, and which has kind of stirred up a lot of, I don't want to say issues, but a lot, so we are really focusing a lot more on bringing some suicide prevention education and some stress management, some other things, and that's how tools or anything that they would share with us, we appreciate that, so.
2 was also circulated. There were a number of training notices as well as other communications that went out to the EMS list. And one of the more significant changes that happened in our program agency in this last quarter, we've transitioned to a new website and also now have a Twitter account. And so we encourage people to follow that so we can try to get more instantaneous communication and integration with the EMS community. It was a delight that since the start of the meeting that we've seen Dr. Lynch following us on Twitter now. I got the notification on that, so well done, sir. And that really is important to have those accounts because people aren't necessarily glued to email accounts, but we try to use social media in the community networks like Twitter to try to get information out in case there's last minute changes that come up or otherwise. So it's really, we very much encourage people to get involved in those platforms. You can read much of what's in here, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. We've, in the past, I don't know, probably a year, we've seen a lot of requests for PCR services at agencies. We get them, and then it seems to taper off for a little while, and then we get a bunch of requests, and we go out and we do the roadshow, and we're always happy to do that. And one of the questions that really seems to be surfacing is the notion of the use of the New York State PCR and BLS first response services. And I think that's a relevant conversation to have here, because the New York State regs do not require, BLSFRs are not a part of regulation in New York State. And so they are not required to complete a New York State PCR, but yet we really want some of the data that they have because they're there as a part of that initial patient care. The challenge with the New York State PCR is that the document itself really is not a particularly good document. And it really is kind of an inappropriate document for BLSFRs, and they do have the latitude to develop their own document. And these are where some of the questions are coming from in terms of, you know, can we create our own? Can we have it be specific? What are we actually required to retain in-house? The guidance that we're giving to these services is that no, you're not particularly required to complete the New York State PCR, but you do have to have a log of patient encounters, but more importantly, there's basic information that you definitely need to get to transporting ambulance services so they can take it to the hospitals. Most importantly, we're pointing them back to their medical directors so that they are interacting with the medical directors and not just coming up with whatever form that they want on their own. So this is something that they should be doing in concert with the medical directors. I bring it up just because you always hear hubbub in the EMS community, and this is one that has been gaining more and more attention, at least in our region. So I wanted you to be aware of the conversations and kind of put it on the record in case you have questions. Medical directors, let us know. We're happy to work with them. We don't want to misguide anybody, but in the same sense, I think, frankly, they're bringing up some valid concerns that full-page document with a lot of narrative is a difficult thing, and oftentimes it's not completed by the time the transporting ambulance gets there to take the patient to the hospital. So, I welcome your feedback on it, but I just wanted you to be aware of what our conversations have been with these services.
Can I give my feedback now?
Yeah, go ahead. I can tell by the look on your face that you had it. That's
So I will say, first of all, that I guess it's true that BLSFRs are not required to fill out PCRs. However, as someone who favors standardization, I think it is a slippery slope, and I caution any agency or medical director to developing their own PCR light or different record of documentation. I think a lot of the BLSFRs use PCRs, have traditionally used PCRs, and there are a lot of us medical directors who do require BLSFRs to complete PCRs as a medical director requirement for them. So I think we just need to be careful about the message that we're sending out and make sure that it's clear, because some of us do require that. I also think while a BLSFR may not be able to fill out everything in detail like a transporting agency would, because you don't have all the information or have limited time before that handoff occurs, I think that we just need to be, when we're reviewing these, be aware of that record may not be as in-depth or as complete depending on response time to the transporting agency and the first response agency and things like that. So I guess that's my caution. The other thing that I do want to throw out, if before anybody spends too much time, if they're thinking about developing their own documentation thing, is I think that down the road, and I won't speak for the Bureau, but I know that there has been discussions with the director that there a lot of talk about should BLSFRs be regulated as like every other EMS agency and that. And I would also like to point out, however, while the agency is not required to complete the PCR, Part 800 actually requires the certified provider to complete the PCR.
I think we'd have to look more at that. That does not necessarily mean that if I'm an EMT and I stop on the side of the road and I help somebody, that I have to complete a PCR.
Well, if you're stopping, but you're not, then you're not really acting as your agency, you're acting as a...
BLSFRs are not agencies.
BLSFRs are agencies if they have an agency code. So this is a very nuanced discussion, and that's why I would caution agencies about this, because there's a lot of, again, misinformation there, and I think there are ways that they do have to follow some of these guidelines, and I think I'd be very careful about them going off on their own or trying to do these things in a vacuum, and of course, the understanding that these things may be required in the future from the state.
Yeah, I completely agree, and the director has expressed, I think it came up on a conference call, if not, it definitely came up when I met with him, when he visited the region, and there is some talk about, creating certified BLSFRs, but not necessarily mandating it for BLSFRs to become a certified unit. It would just establish a standard if they voluntarily chose to participate in that. But again, that's conceptual only, and we'll see what the director goes. But in Erie County, we do have, I think, at least 2 services that have their own document outside of the New York State PCR. And really what we're seeing is it's the vital section. It might look a lot like it, but it's the vital section, past medical history, basic patient information. Sometimes in the rural areas, the BLSFR services, they may have more time to complete some of those fields or be more familiar with the New York State PCR before the transporting service gets there. But in more urban areas, the complaint is that they're getting these documents and they're trying to QA them and they feel that they have incomplete information, they don't know how to QA them. And so, I think these are all valid points, but I think, the lay of the land in the 8 counties can sometimes dictate what's best in that particular region, which is why we're steering them back to the medical directors to have these conversations. And so, this very conversation is the exact reason why I bring it up, so that you're aware of it, and you don't think that, it's just people going on the road and doing whatever that they want. So,
Two things on the top.
Yeah.
We were able to, through EMS charts, create a scaled down version on the EPCR so that it only gathers what it needs to gather from a BLSFR agency. We also, with MSIS 3 coming in, we're working with EMS charts to be able to integrate those charts so that the information can get pulled. Apparently that is something they weren't aware of, and so they're working on that now. We have quite a bit even with the fly card system, so similar type of thing where we get transferred over. So they're working on that integration. It's not there yet, but it is something they're working on.
Okay, any other questions? All right, subcommittee reports, collaborative protocols. I think this is still, the ALS town protocols, Brian, are just still in limbo based on the BLS protocols being in limbo?
Well, I think the discussion has been from the collaborative protocols to try to have some discussion on what future updates should be, but not to be putting out updated protocols every year. I think that we're still working on what that actual time frame is going to be, probably every 2-year range or something like that, maybe. There has been some discussion about things to include going forward. The big discussion was that the BLS protocols and federal protocols, they want those to line up so there aren't any discrepancies going forward. When the new BLS protocols are approved, which we expect them to be once they're brought up, the next CMAC consent goes, then there is a lot of discussion about how to format them, how to include them in the app, how to break them out, if they're continuous, things like that. So a lot of those things were kind of sorted out to make it easier for providers to find and reference certain parts of the protocols in that. The other thing that was discussed at that meeting was the AMT protocols, which we had discussed and had a bunch of meetings on a year ago. Those were actually approved back in May at the May CMAC and Sons Go. They were not put out and rolled out yet because the group decided we don't want to have protocol updates every 3 months. We don't want an AMT one now and then a BLS one done in 3 months from now. And that was done with the anticipation that the BLS protocols were going to go through and be approved back in September, which obviously did not happen. So when it didn't happen, then the collaborative group decided they are going to roll out those AMT changes that were previously approved soon. They are working on some like a narrated PowerPoint kind of update to those changes and things. And then once that is available, then we can roll that out to providers. Do you have any updates on that?
Well, I believe, and I was having an initial thing, I think it was Jason Haynes who volunteered to do an agitation, and he has lost his job and is now in a new position. So I will email him just to make sure when he's still going to be able to do that, because I thought we were supposed to see something probably by now. He made it sound like he was going to do it right after the meeting, so I haven't seen it with you guys. So I'll follow up with Jason on that.
But that should be coming out shortly, those changes that were discussed. So a lot of those things were things that we had in our Wremac protocols at the AMT level, and we went with collaboratives and trying to standardize across the state, and now are coming back into a lot of the practice and maximum their scope of practice.
Skipping ahead to old business, do we have enough to make our final determination about CME requirements and yield decompression based on the AMT protocols? Or should we leave that on?
I would leave that
for January.
Yes.
Okay. The only thing I would say is we have to, at the January meeting, lock down what our schools are going to be for the year. We can't in May tell providers what to do. So I think we need to commit to, finish the January meeting with a very clear plan. Even if things change after that, we still need to stick to whatever the January plan is. So we're kind of moving target people ahead of the June deadline. Alex Lundberg has no report for the QI committee. Do we have anything on field termination?
No, I'm hoping to have something for January.
Okay, great. Moving to old business, we just talked about the policy review. Program agents, do you have anything about a leadership retreat, or do you want to take this off the agenda for now, or what do you want to do?
Can we bump back to the policy review?
I'm sorry, go ahead, read my policy review.
So the thing I was supposed to email to you that I promptly did not do.
Yep.
There's just a few policies that I think we should form just an ad hoc group to take a real quick look at for the Wremac. I'm counting, there's about 8 policies. Some of them just have language like basically use intermediate and things like that from years past. There's nothing major that needs to be done, but if we could just form a work group, maybe one person from each program agency, one of the voting members from the Wremac to be a part of that. Of course, he was the chair, would automatically be a de facto member of the committee, but and probably, most significantly is 2013-1, which is the credentialing one. And I think that this correspondence that you put out regarding the BLS certification, this is something that probably, whether it's this document or the key concepts from this document, need to be folded into that policy, because that's what this really relates to. And rather than have yet another document for people to have to read through, this is good, supportive, but I think we should have it policy form so that it's clear that there's no, we say that there's no grace periods, but that a recommended renewal is considered a hard stop, and that should be folded into the policy. So not a ton of work, but I think if we could just clean a little bit of that up and do sort of committee together.
So I think that we already have that in our PPA policy, though. It says the EMS agency shall ensure each provider maintains continuous certification with all data required at the level of care.
That is true, but so if you look on the AHA cards and where this document came from, it gives a recommended renewal date. The program administrative manual for the Heart Association says that you have it from last, if you took a class today on the 14th of November, your expiration date would be listed as November 2020. But that would be identified as a recommended renewal date. And so what some providers are doing is they're interpreting that as, well, I don't have to do it by then, therefore it's not a hard sunset. And that's not true. In the Heart Association, in the PAM, it makes it clear that that is when that expires, and that's what Brian's correspondence to the program agencies depict. That recommended is the same thing as expired.
so I think we have two different, we have two different issues, and I want to make sure we separate them, so we do them, take care of them both before January. One is, I'm going to call it AEMT level of care things that kind of waterfall from the collaborative protocols to the AEMT level. And then the other one's kind of general housekeeping of policies that not change necessarily, but fixing things and updating and those kinds of things. So they're two different things, but I think, yeah, we need to put it together a group. We can probably do them the same day, put together recommendations ahead of the next meeting. Let's try to get that on the calendar for December. Do that, right?
As long as the ad hoc committee meets prior.
Yeah, December.
And I don't mean like an hour before the Wremac.
Right, December.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else on that? Leadership tree, can we take this off the minutes, or do we have some time? Leadership tree, okay, off the agenda, cool.
Can I ask a question too about skills? I know at one time we talked about looking at the skills and maybe changing them up a little. You know, and not that I really want to do this, but you know, maybe we had dawning and dropping or a pediatric skill or something. One to kind of mix it up a little, and two to kind of challenge providers to show different skills. Just
My mom said.
Okay, so let's forge ahead, and then at the end of this meeting, anyone who sticks around, we can start talking about policy review things,
Okay.
so we don't have to take everybody else's time. New business, this is the part where you all laugh, as I mentioned, the Wremac tier nominations. Thank you all. Okay, don't get up at once. Okay, good. Is there any discussion on new business bullet points 2 through 7? This is medical record change as above, pad notifications, epi syringe, blood glucometry approvals, CPAP approvals, and some level of care changes. For a point of clarification, do we vote, if you go ALSFR to paramedic transport,
Need a new CON to go from an
they're doing. So the state apparently told them they also had to do it. We verified it was wrong, but you could be right, because we didn't think it sounded accurate,
they didn't do any kind of first place?
but they're doing what
They're a
they're.
first response agency.
So they should have a con though as an ALSFR.
They do. They have an LSFR C1.
But I would see that there would be a change if you're going from ALSFR to.
Regular
Full lead of 3-year
They
C1.
transferred it from,
Hazmat.
Right. But I don't think.
This is Dan from Chautauqua County. We went through the CON process to get our ALSFR. It's agency 1078. After we started that, we did a study to start the flight cars, and we actually just changed the name, and we're still agency 1078, but to become a transporting agency, they told us that we needed to do a CON or a full CON as transporting. That the ALSFR was not transferable to a transporting agency.
Correct. So it's not a level of care change though.
It's a new agency.
It's an agency change. So there's nothing, so we don't.
Right, it would be a new agency. I'm assuming they'll give us a new agency number.
Yeah, and they're already paramedic level. There's no.
Right.
It's not a
It's a
level of care
regional
change.
issue.
Right, I agree, that's, so if, I mean, I'm comfortable with approving this either way, so that we can figure out, however it has to happen at the state or school level. If it's a transition, it should be approved. If it's a new agency, it should be approved also. And so we'll just reflect in the minutes that whether those
When we've had these in the
possibilities.
past, what they wanted from this organization
They'll let it,
is
right.
they just want essentially a conditional approval.
Right.
Stating that if the CON is in fact approved, that they would be eligible for privileges within the region.
Right, I think that's reasonable, and if we find in a week or two it's a little bit different than our understanding, I'll write a slightly different letter, all with the same end goal in mind, unless anyone has any objections to that. Good. Does anyone have specific questions about any of these bullet points other than that, or would we like to accept them in mass?
I make a motion to accept them.
Thank you, Dr. Walters. Dr. Lynch. Any discussion on any of these further? All in favor? Any opposed? Is there any other new business before us? Dr. Lynch?
Just in case you haven't heard, the DeGraff Emergency Department will be switching sides tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. to the Twin City Highway side, so if you could let your associated agencies know that you can't miss the amount of LED lights and bright signage that is out there. We are sure of that.
One last thing, it was pointed out in the program committee reports that the 16th is the state meeting. Looking at the calendars, many of us will be, the week before, will be in Texas for NMSP. I'm not in Buffalo on the 23rd. How about Wednesday, the 30th of January?
We'll be in Texas.
You'll be in Texas then too? Is there 30th?
Yeah, that's one for 2 years. And don't go around.
30th, okay? Okay, all right, we'll make it the 30th then, January 30th. As long as they can have us, thanks, sir. All right, nothing else, is there a motion for adjournment? Thanks, Dr. Lynch.